Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to our council meeting of July 11th at the time. June, sorry, jumping ahead a month. June 11th at the time of 1 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. And I'll start off and I'll read our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Asphodel-Norwood is located in the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alterville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Islands First Nations. The township of Asphodel-Norwood respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain these responsibilities to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I will now invite everybody to pause for a moment of silent reflection to prepare for the council meeting ahead as a gesture of respect and contemplation. I will now ask council members to declare any direct or indirect pecuniary interest before the council. At this time, seeing no hands, I'll move on to approval of the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve today's agenda as amended with a correction to R1. Moved by Deputy Mayor Byrd, second by Councillor Hodge Greaves. All in favor? Motion's carried. Moving along to the approval of the minutes, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the regular minutes of May 28th as presented or amended.
As presented.
As presented, Councillor Ward and Deputy Mayor Burt. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Moving along onto the consent agenda.
Surprising.
Pardon? Do we have any business arising from the minute? Sorry, I thought I asked that if there was any discussion. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have correspondence items C1 through C7 and special events committee minutes of April 2nd. Do we have somebody to approve the circulated or amended? Deputy Mayor Burt.
I will move that with pulling of C2.
For comment, okay, and
I'll second that with commenting on C1.
Councillor Ward. Any other discussion? All in favor of that motion? Discuss it after or no? Okay, discuss after.
So for C2, I just wanted to let council know that they, with the PCAD dissolution, that there is a staff and council committee at the county working with PCAD and certainly other municipalities in the area. Tourism and economic development does not know boundaries. So really, you know, kind of expanding that and looking at it. And I think it's moving along well. Everyone's excited about it, and hopefully there's not a lot of gaps moving forward. So we'll know a little bit more. I think they're meeting again last week. Anyway, there will be a plan moving forward before the end of the year.
Okay. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you through there. Just a comment on C1, which I believe you said on Orca, but I did see reading the report that they have a turtle guardian sighting report form. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing. I've noticed in the last few weeks that the turtles are out and about, and unfortunately they do get hit on the highways. So I just wanted to point that out in the report if anybody was reading it at home. Or it's a good report. Thank you.
Very good. This has been passed. Motion to pass it. It was already made, the motion was made, all we're doing now is all in favor, and everybody's all in favor, thank you. Delegations, we have two delegations with us today, and we'll start off with Ms. Pasnich. And she can come up to this chair right here and speak about public transportation access. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. If it's okay, I'll be speaking off my phone today, a little printer technical difficulties at home. But thank you so much. So I'm here today to address a critical issue that affects many of us, the lack of public transportation in our town. As a resident of Asphodel-Norwood, I've witnessed firsthand the challenges faced by our community due to the absence of a public bus stop. This issue significantly impacts our daily lives, especially for those without personal vehicles. Today, I aim to highlight the importance of establishing a public bus stop in our town and urge the township to take some action. Currently, residents without personal vehicles find it incredibly difficult to access essential services, employment, and social activities. This lack of mobility creates a significant barrier, particularly for seniors, individuals with disabilities, and low-income families. Furthermore, the absence of public transportation creates an inequitable situation where some residents have fewer opportunities simply because they lack access to a vehicle. Many students from our community commute to institutions such as Trent University and Fleming College in Peterborough. Without reliable public transportation, these students face higher costs and increased stress, which can negatively impact their academic performance and overall well-being. A public bus stop would provide a crucial link for these students, allowing them to pursue their education and contribute positively to our community. A public bus stop would not only benefit students, but also enhance the quality of life for all residents. It would provide seniors and individuals with disabilities the independence to travel for medical appointments, shopping, and social activities. Improved public transportation would also potentially reduce traffic congestion and environmental pollution, promoting a more sustainable and livable community. Of course, there are some downsides to this as well to consider that Mayor Wilfred had recently mentioned to me, such as the kind of traffic we'd be bringing into our community. Our community is very safe. We have a lot of families and children and schools. So perhaps we can just start with the education institutions like Trent and Fleming, so we can get our students a crucial link to get to school, the ones without personal vehicles. So I'm urging the township to consider the following actions to address this issue effectively. To just initiate collaboration, begin discussions with the city of Peterborough to explore extending public transit services to our growing community, as well as maybe including Trent and Fleming in those discussions. To conduct a needs assessment, perform an assessment to identify the specific transportation needs of our residents, just to get to know what our community wants, how people feel, especially those without personal vehicles, what challenges they might be facing. And to identify suitable locations, to determine an appropriate and accessible location that we can discuss to see where this public bus stop would benefit our residents. To conclude this address, establishing a public bus stop in Asphodel-Norwood's growing community is not just a matter of convenience, it is a matter of equity and accessibility. It is an essential step towards creating a more inclusive and supportive community for all residents. I strongly urge the council to take some action and collaborate with the city of Peterborough to make this much needed change a reality. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I look forward to a positive response and discussing this matter further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to inform you, I have, as I've talked to you before, I have talked with Mayor Jeff Leo as early as D-Day celebrations about busing. I would like to see the east part of the county, maybe cooperation with the 4 municipalities and 1 First Nation there. Just let you know what I would be looking at moving forward on that. And it is in our site, trust me.
Awesome.
Deputy Mayor Bird.
Yeah, thank you through you. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Very good delegation. I think this has been on the plate for a while. It's certainly something we can't do alone. Our municipality isn't large enough, but you know, sharing the load with, you know, like you say, surrounding eastern municipalities is something. And I like your idea of starting with the schools to look at that. I think that's important. You know, there's a lot of students from the area that go to Trent and Fleming, so.
And there's lots more coming in.
Yeah, and I think that's a good starting point, and I think, you know, doing it in phases is smart. quite frankly, you know, I'm sure Pat's been honest with you, the money is not there right now. But it, you know, thank you for the delegation, it gets us on the radar. And just a little hint of history, years ago, when I was a kid, I won't say how many years ago, I think once a week, there was a bus that ran from Norwood to Peterborough, and picked you up in the morning and dropped you back off at night, so it has happened in the past.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the opportunity to share.
Councillor Ward?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yes, thank you for the presentation. And I did want to point out one thing that there is volunteer driver programs for seniors such as community care. So there is like, you know, there are a few things that people of different age groups could use if needed, but I know many, and I, again, dating myself, many years ago, I did attend Trent, and we did do carpool. Like, you know, you reached out to who you knew, and, you know, you did a carpooling initiative. And, you know, maybe, just as you said, start with the schools, because, you know, now with apps and anything else, people could, you know, set up their own carpooling or ride sharing, whatever it is.
100%.
But, thank you for your
And just
presentation.
to add on that point, like many people aren't comfortable reaching out for support. You have a lot of residents that are of different diverse backgrounds that maybe don't speak English, different colored people as well, that maybe aren't comfortable reaching out for support and really need that independence to be able to just walk down and be able to access these services. And there's a lot of like hesitancy because of that barrier that people face. So maybe that can be like something that we can start for an outreach program to get people aware of the services that we have. So people can reach out and connect with the programs that we do have available.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to receive? Deputy Mayor Burt, Councillor Ward, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to our second delegation. And it's on the Municipal Master Facilities Plan from EcoView Consulting Services and Aurora Consulting.
Thank you, Mayor Wilbur. Just gonna get set up here. If you have a presentation, yeah, it's warming up. It'll come up on there, yeah, okay.
You want lights off?
It'll be okay, but we gotta look here.
Much better over here.
Oh, I could see myself right there. We'll look up my nose. All right. So thank you, Mayor Wilford, and the council. My name is Kent Randall. I'm the principal at EcoView Consulting Services. With me is Jessica Ray Reed, the planner at EcoView, and Adrian Harp, who's the principal of Harp Consulting. And so EcoView and Harp were retained by the township in the fall of 2023 to conduct the facilities master plan for the township. And we'll get into the details of that in a moment. So next slide, please. So the purpose of this study and this review is to look at 9 existing facilities that the township owns and operates, and to determine if what is needed in terms of upgrades or relocation, or just to determine the overall capacity and usage of these facilities, and in order to figure out what would be needed into the future, if upgrades are needed, if these facilities can accommodate the existing programs and operations. So it's really just coming up with a roadmap for the township's facilities, and of course the township is, as you all know, is growing. There's more people coming here, so it was important for the township to look at these places, these buildings, and there are limitations, right, essentially, and how can we improve that, and what should we do to improve that? So it involved a lot of consultation. Consultation with the public, consultation with stakeholder groups. As council's aware, these facilities are used by a lot of different community groups. And we'll go through each facility one by one and just to discuss who's using them and their detail. But it involved, the process did involve a lot of outreach, surveys, which we'll get into, meetings with these groups to figure out if their needs are being met and what they would need if they aren't being met, what they would need moving forward. Next slide, please. So we'll go through each of the facilities one by one. I won't spend too much time. Of course, the report has been included in your agenda packages, and I hope that the council was able to look through it. And so we'll just briefly sort of go over each of the facilities. We'll talk about the focus groups and the outreach that took place during this process, and then we'll conclude with the recommendations that we provided in the report moving forward. So as you can see in this map, the 9 facilities are concentrated within the village of Norwood and the former hamlet of Westwood. There's two areas in Westwood. That's the library and the fire hall, and the archives, the township archives as well. And then the other 7 are located in Norwood. We're in one of the rooms, one of the facilities that we looked at right now. And of course, this is, as we'll get into, it's there's a few challenges, of course, with this room. But as you can see, most of them concentrated in Norwood. So that's most of where our focus was at. Next slide, please. So, the first one, so we'll go through these one by one. The first one that we looked at, the town hall, the old town hall, where council chambers, of course, used to be, before the renovation, the lower level. There's 2 parts to the town hall. There's the upper level that features the beautiful room up there that's rented for events and other things. It's also used by the Lions Club and the food bank as well. So the food bank has all of their food is stored there. It also has a kitchen up there that's used for those events, but they're constrained because of the usage by the food bank. The space is constrained there. So it does get crowded. It's difficult to switch between groups that are renting and using that upstairs space. And it is open to anybody looking to rent that upstairs space. So there are quite a number of events that take place there, but it's limited by those factors. Next slide, please. Then, of course, in the lower level, the offices of the township's administrative staff, so clerks, treasurer, building planning. And as council, I'm sure, is aware, it's not the best space for a township or municipal office, particularly as it interfaces with the public. That photo is the front door is just on the right there, where when you come in, if you're a member of the public, you're coming in, you're seeing just the glass window there where you're greeted. So it's not the best, most welcoming space for the public. There isn't, of course, much of a waiting area there as well. And staff, as in our discussions with staff, of course, that there isn't a whole lot of room, particularly for expansion within that entire lower level. Next slide, please. So the other site that we looked at was the Public Works yard, and this, of course, is one of the newer facilities that the township has, constructed in 2010. Houses the Public Works fleet. It's a nice modern facility. It's well built, but it is at its capacity in terms of the Public Works fleet and the usage of the site. So, and then the other issue that was pointed out to us when looking at sort of the overall coverage for Public Works in the township is that this being the main spot, and Norwood, of course, being the northeast part of the township, it's difficult to get, the fleet out to the other parts of the township, in a timely manner. That's sort of a limiting factor, that we were looking at, that's currently sort of limiting, the Public Works, department at this point. Next slide, please. And of course, the room that we're in now, the Langham Room, when we were looking at the community center, we were only looking at this room. We weren't looking at the rink in terms of its capacity or how it's used. We were looking at this room itself. It's a good room. It does the job as an event space, but it's not necessarily the best space for council, long term. The other limitation with this space is that setting up and taking down everything for the council meetings limits, like storing it here limits the amount of space that is usable for outside groups. And as you can see, there are several groups that use it, in addition to the private groups that we use, like wedding receptions, parties, events, things like that, because it is a good large space that can be utilized by the community, for that purpose. Next slide, please. Fire station number 1, which is just over there, on Alma Street, it's fairly constrained. And the biggest thing being that it's located, there's no parking, in front of the station. There's one parking space, so, firefighters have to park on the road. It's an older building. There's been some additions to it, but it's old, it's dated, it needs some work. The office space is also limited. Of course, the fire chief's office is in the Public Works building, which sort of tells you the limitations with that building. So there are some constraints with that building and the property itself. Next slide, please. And then we were looking at the other fire station, number 2 in Westwood. Also houses the township's archives in the front, and that's on the right side, the door into the archives there. Fire station's on the left there, and you can see the bays. And as we noted here, the bays for the vehicles are undersized, for fire vehicles. There's also, in this space, you can see that barn just behind with a rusted roof, on the right side of the photo. That's a storage building that's actually being leased out to a private company that stores, their inventory within that building. So that also limits the amount of space that's usable at that site. I think at some point it was used by Public Works, in the past. I believe when we were touring, that's what we were told. And so there's some outbuildings there that were likely used for sand and salt storage in the past. Next slide, please. Then there's the Norwood Library branch, and this is it's a good space. It is limited in its size. There are quite a few groups that use this space, but it's difficult with the 2 floors. I think there's an accessible lift there as well, which does make it accessible as a building, but it is limited in its size and space, particularly for community groups that are looking to use it. Next slide, please. Then there's the other library branch in Westwood. This is a beautiful old building, and really, this was probably the best building in terms of its constraints. It's not very constrained. The space is well used. There aren't any real issues with the building despite its age. So we stated here that there's really no limitations. And as you see in our recommendations, we don't have any recommendations for this particular building. Next slide, please. Then there's the current soon-to-be former medical center, which is of course just over on the corner. And so as council's aware, the space will become vacant when the new medical center opens up. And so it also houses the county paramedics. as you can see on the right, there's the base for the ambulance, ambulance parking there. It's a fairly good space, and as we'll get to, after the medical center moves out, there's opportunities there to use that space. So next slide, please. So I'm just gonna turn it over to Jess, and she's just gonna speak briefly about the consultation process that we went through.
Yeah, so as Ken said, there were a variety of facilities that we had looked at. We went to for a site visit, I believe it was late October 2023, and we had gathered a number of notes. However, we are only observing from not a user perspective. So it was very important for us to speak with municipal staff as well as council and members of the public who utilize this space. So next slide, please. So these are the forms of public consultation that were employed. This was between October 2023 and the end of February 2024. So starting with municipal staff interviews, if there's anything that I'm saying, Adrian, that's incorrect, please cut me off. But there were interviews held on October 25th. So that was actually the day of the site visit. So later that afternoon, Adrian sat down with members from multiple different departments of the township and determined what limitations that they were currently seeing with the spaces that they were utilizing, from public works to the township office to the fire halls, et cetera. Next was the municipal council surveys. These were available for a period of time between October and November of 2023. Surveys were circulated to council where we were kind of questioning what the limitations that you see with the current spaces and your current constituents, any comments that you receive, any concerns that you have, as well as the utilization that you have of these facilities. So specifically when it comes to the Millennium Room, but any other facilities that you see that you were using. Next were the community surveys. So these were available on the township website from October 26th to November 11th of 2023. There was about a 3-week period where residents were just able to access, click on, and I believe it was a less than 10 question survey, just talking about spaces that they used, any limitations they saw with it, any which way that the township can make it more easier to utilize these spaces, et cetera. And the community was also invited to leave any comments that they had, any recommendations. And I believe, if I'm correct, that we got 291 responses on the community survey. So quite a bit of public engagement on that. Next was the user group telephone interviews. So these occurred kind of as people were available between October and December of 2023. These included the members of the Norwood Food Bank, Lions Club, Boys and Girls Club of Kawarthas, Peter Road Child and Family Centers, Community Care, et cetera. This was the groups who utilized these spaces and what they were finding, limitations that they were having as they were, especially as it came to the food bank and the upper level of the town hall limitations that they had, things like that, so they could bring them forward as they were actively using these on a week-to-week basis. And the last thing was an in-person stakeholder focus group that was held in person at the upper level of the town hall on February 28th, 2024, in which we invited some of the groups that were part of the user group telephone interviews, as well as additional user groups based on, I believe, correspondences that we had with the town of anybody who was invited, who used the groups, et cetera. And we had posted some questions, which I will let Adrian get into next. So if we can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, so our main objective for the focus group was to find out what how the user groups felt about our preliminary recommendations. We gave them 4 questions. In the future, I want Asphodel-Norwood to be, so what is their vision for the community? Then they were given stickers and they were able to walk around and to rate our recommendations, good, bad, or neutral. Then they took the same stickers and they were able to walk around and give the priorities of what should be done now, later, or never. And then we had a discussion about if there was anything that we missed. So the feedback from this focus group really led into the final recommendations. There was some that the user groups really said, yes, we are into this, we support this 100%. And there were some that said absolutely not. So those were removed completely. And yeah, I'll hand it back to Kent and he can tell you about the final recommendations that really came from this focus group. It was quite successful.
Next slide, please. Then we can go into the next one. So the the final recommendation. So coming out of that, sorry, I'm getting really close. I'm getting a little too close. It's adjusting, I'm sure. I don't want anybody to see that. So we, as seen in the report, we've got 13 recommendations total for the 9 sites. As you'll see, they're very much interconnected. So I'll kind of be going back and forth on things here and there. So please bear with me because it's kind of like a domino falling, right? With one facility, groups moving to a different facility, that facility being utilized by another group. And so those things with all that shuffling, there's a lot of back and forth. So please bear with me as we do that. But as Adrian said, it came out of the consultation that we did, which was very fulsome, like, as planners, we're used to people not engaging enough. And so it was great to see that level of engagement. So the way that we grouped them was just very simply near term, long term. So near term being the 1 to 5 years, long term being greater than 5 years. Next slide, please. So the primary recommendation here, and this is kind of leads to the dominoes falling, is establishing a new municipal complex or campus at the Public Works Yard of that property on Highway 7. So this involves constructing a new building there that would house the administration, so the municipal administration, municipal staff, as well as council chambers, and potentially a new fire hall, as well as a new paramedics hall as well, or paramedics office. So that's kind of the main recommendation, because with that and with the facilities, the other facilities opening up, that kind of leads to a lot of different things happening. And the biggest thing here is that we, as I noted, and I'm sure council can attest to this, that the current municipal office is quite constrained, as I noted. There's not a lot of room, there's not a lot of space, it's not the greatest space. So that sort of came out of our review and consultation as kind of the number one priority, or one of the number one, I shouldn't say the number one, but one of the main priorities and recommendations. And as I go through this, these are taken directly from the report, so I won't go into each bullet point one by one, but I'll try to just provide an overview. And if you do have any questions about these recommendations or the benefits and reasons, we'll have an opportunity at the end. Next slide, please. So this leads into recommendations 2 and 3. So with the relocation of the municipal offices, that opens things up in terms of the upper and lower levels, or the lower level of town hall. And so with that space, you can utilize that space for those community groups. The food bank, I think we talked about the food bank potentially going to the downstairs to the lower level, rather than using that upper level as a more permanent spot for them. And then that also frees up the upper level for those temporary or events and things like that taking place within that room. Next slide, please. And then just continuing on with that, that would provide a greater opportunity for renting that space out. So now you're freeing up more room that could be potentially more revenue for the township. And then I think what we got out of the food banks issues were really that they were constrained by that space, and we wanted to make it so that it was easier for them. And I think the opportunity for the offices moving out of there would be provided for them. Next slide, please. So that kind of leads into the recommendations for the Public Works Yard, although with this, the recommendations that we provide on this slide are related more to the fire training room, which is upstairs. And it's not accessible, there's no elevator there. So these recommendations are sort of related to that. But that was really, in terms of the actual building itself, that was really the only major issue with that building, aside from it not having the capacity for public works. But as a building itself, functionally, it's fine. Next slide, please. We're then moving to recommendation number 5. We are recommending that the fleet, or, you know, a portion of the fleet be moved to the Westwood site, where Fire Hall 2 is currently at. There's space there that we believe that can be provided to Public Works. And again, that would provide better coverage for the township in terms of snow plowing, road graders, things like that. Next slide, please. And again, I'm kind of breezing through these, but we can take questions at the end. We're happy to answer. Recommendation number 6 is the relocating. So this has to do with this room, of course, and relocating council chambers. And where we're recommending is the upper level of the Norwood Library. And as we'll get into, the library, it will be going somewhere. So council chambers can have a more permanent home at the upper level of the library. The library will be moved to the medical center, and we'll discuss that. But that, of course, gives a dedicated space to council chambers rather than having this temporary setup. And then, of course, it also frees up storage room for events for people that use this room, which is really the intended use of this room, is for the community to use as event space and that sort of thing. Next slide, please. And then recommendations 7 and 8 is related to moving the fire station number 1. I'd mentioned how constrained that site is, and that was a lot of our discussions with the fire department and its staff, was that it was extremely constrained, and that a new facility is needed. And our recommendation is that we would relocate the fire hall within that new municipal campus at the Public Works Yard on Highway 7. And I think the reasons and the benefits are obvious for in terms of what I was discussing before. Next slide, please. And then related to that recommendation is if the fire station is moved, that it's pretty much surplus land at that point. It can't be used for really anything else. And in terms of our recommendations, we would recommend that you sell it. It's within a residential area. It could easily be used for repurposed for residential in the future. Next slide, please. And then these recommendations are related to the other fire station, number 2 in Westwood. We would recommend a renovation of this facility so that it can accommodate larger trucks. So renovating the vehicle bays. We still think it's obviously important to have the fire station there. And then, of course, it would be renovated. Those renovations could be in tandem with any sort of property renovations that are needed to accommodate Public Works if it is moved to that site. And then benefits, of course, enhanced emergency response. Having the ability to put the larger trucks in that site is important. And then next slide, please. Continuing on, as I noted, the building behind being leased out, we would recommend utilizing that space. If you are bringing Public Works in there, you'll need all the space you can get, all the storage space that you can get, and that particular building be freed up by terminating the lease with the private company. Next slide, please. And so the public library branch, as in Norwood, as I had mentioned, the upper floor being utilized for council chambers. So that would involve relocating the library, and we would relocate the library to the medical center, what will be the old medical center. As a space for council chambers, there's plenty of space upstairs. So we saw it with that space opening up, because one of our recommendations, our main recommendations, even before thinking about council going there, was that the library be relocated anyway, because they are running out of space there in terms of their storage. So this kind of worked out where that space could be used, and it's centrally located, and it's in a good spot for council chambers. Next slide, please. And then, as I said, moving the library branch to the medical center. There's also an opportunity with this space, the medical center itself. You could have the library and it's large enough to accommodate public space for those groups to rent out. Both downstairs and upstairs, if anyone's been around there before, there's the doctors and medical offices upstairs, and then downstairs. There's also storage for those, the medical offices, in addition to the EMS, they have their kitchen there and everything on the one side. But as we'll see in the next slide, we are recommending that the paramedics be relocated to that same, the municipal campus where the fire station is, where the new fire station would be. That would potentially free up, or would free up room in that basement area. It's quite large down there. There's lots of rooms that could be rented out for meetings, for event, or not events, but for public space and that sort of thing. And then next slide. So those are the main recommendations, and the one thing or a few things to consider about these recommendations, and I'm sure that, you know, they sound good, but the one thing to consider is that we're not necessarily looking at costs with these recommendations. We weren't asked to. This is more to give sort of, as I said, a roadmap in terms of what the township needs. So these are things that would need to be considered in the future. That's the site at the works yard, which I noted is sort of the focus of one of the main recommendations. With the way that we've laid it out, or when we're looking at the dimensions of the property, that there's plenty of space there for a lot of this. There might have to be a bit more sort of planning in terms of where the parking would go. The municipality does own property behind that could be added onto through lot additions. So these are things to consider when moving forward with this recommendation, just ensuring that there's the space, the proper space is there for everything that's needed. Paramedics using a separate entrance, you know, is that necessary? And then also, you know, having each department coordinating which departments are going to be in there, how the space is going to be used in terms of the new municipal office. Next slide, please. And then timelines, I think, is the biggest thing. We had provided these, you know, near term, long term. But you know, these things can't, in a perfect world, they'd all be done at once, but there has to be considerations, and that's what we tried to do with the near and long term. However, that's of course at council's discretion. You know, it's also important to consider the existing buildings and the renovations and repairs that would be required, and weigh that against the costs of moving things forward with new facilities. Next slide. And yeah, so that's it. We'll take questions now, and yeah, we'll do our best to answer them. Have any? Fire away. Thank you.
Just a couple comments, and thanks again for your presentation. I hear about your fire hall, council chambers, et cetera, out on across some new businesses that have just opened there. Have you thought about west of the village for something like that? Part of the reason would be less traffic pulling out, especially on long weekends, especially Friday, Saturday nights for a fire department pulling out of there. There would be a new agreement set up with the paramedics and county council, which would help with some funding for the rental of the space. Couple other things I had there. Agree with the public works yard in Westwood. Yes, I agree with you 100%. Our last public works manager sold a backhoe for $30,000. I thought, why are you selling it? Why don't you put it in the barn out at the Westwood site? A lot closer for some of the work that can be done out there with a backhoe. But that was a decision that was made before. Some of your projects that you have mentioned on here, how many are renters that pay money as compared to users that don't.
Right.
We spoke to the users that do not pay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the user groups that were identified as being important for this study.
all right.
Yeah.
Further questions, council? Deputy Mayor Burke?
Thank you, more comments. Thank you very much for your presentation, appreciate it. Yeah, I agree. I started, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts. And you can't do one without doing something else, and it is very long term. All of these moves come with a very big price tag. And I think we're all very aware of that, and we're still a small municipality, so I think, certainly having this outline and plan in place is good. It'd be nice to get those DC charges, revenues built back up, but, I think, we do know that the fire hall in Norwood is seeing the end of its life.
Right.
Where, one thing I did want to ask, and I will ask it now, but you can answer after, this would be for Alan perhaps, was the lease in Westwood for the Quonset hut. I thought it ended this year, but I'm not 100% sure. Or Seamus may know that,
It's December 31st, 2023.
2020.
This year
Oh,
before.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
One side, and then there's that,
Yeah.
an old shed. just
The old
above
shed.
Mountain, Old, and at the end of this.
Okay, I was wondering about that. Okay, thank you very much. And certainly, the old medical center, we know that that is now in use at least for 3 years. Yeah, there's just, I'm not sure from my perspective, where's the low hanging fruit and where can we get our biggest bang for our buck to start the process? And I really think it needs to, go back and looked at and, financially priced out. It's a lot to take in. But we do know there are some changes, and you can look at it like this is a good thing. We're growing. We need the space. User groups want to stay here. They want to use the facilities. People want to rent the facilities. It's a good problem to have, but it is a problem.
Mhm.
So I don't really have any questions. It's just it's just throwing my verbal thoughts out. So thank you.
It was nice that you mentioned that the old medical center is rented out now because the
Right.
new one is open.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Councilor Ward.
Thank you to you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation and the work that you put into this project. I did have a couple things, like, I think that this document will prove valuable, and I had reached out to our CAO for comment, because I think as an internal review guide, like staff could look at future growth and come back with reports. And as our CAO suggested, he thought that this document would be really good when we redo our strat plan for the 25-26, which I thought was a good comment, because as Deputy Mayor Burke had said, what is the low hanging fruit? What can we identify first? Where are the funding opportunities going to come from in this domino effect? So yeah, there's a lot more questions than answers, but I mean, it's nice to have somebody, and again, I think Deputy Mayor Burke touched on this, like an outside source looking at the facilities, because sometimes we get a narrow view of what our township is. And by having an outside company come in and review it for us, it gives different ideas. We may not implement them
Yeah.
all, or the way that it was, but it opens up different ideas, and isn't that the whole part of this?
Exactly.
So I just have one comment. I did feel, looking at the surveys, that I wish, and maybe this is for future reference for you guys, it's just a comment on my behalf, that I wish that there had been maybe one-on-one with council members, the interviews, because I think that a lot of us, have insight. Many of us have lived here our entire lives, maybe different than what, user groups, that don't pay when we're trying to do budgets. And I felt that the 5-minute survey didn't give us enough input, and I'm not even sure, I know that I responded, but I don't even know what the response was back from the rest of council, but that's my only input, but I think it's a very detailed document, but I just wanted to put that comment forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs, agree.
Following up with Council Moore, I would agree. I actually didn't complete the survey. I meant to go back and say, I don't like the survey. I felt it was quite leading in its responses. It wasn't just like everything was enhanced, bigger, better, I want more. Whereas I was like, well, maybe I just like it how it is. And then in Candace and the previous CAO leaving, I let that slip through the cracks and I didn't reach out. But yes, it would have been nice to have had a one-on-one. And that was, I meant to fill in the survey, but I meant to have a conversation about, I didn't really agree with the question. I felt it was leading me down a path to agree to something that was already predetermined is how I felt about the survey. But the final recommendations, I would echo what the others have said. It's a huge project. And and in terms of the actual site, I must say the public works yard as a municipal campus, it need a lot of grass and a lot of softening its edges to make it a welcoming space for the community. I mean, it's hard to even visualize what that is, and I'm not against a big vision, but yeah. And also with the fire hall where it is, I mean, they're close to the, I don't know, with Chief Payne here, like, do most of your calls go to Mapleview and Pleasant Meadow? Like, I just don't know if there's an audit that if that site moves from that location.
The optimal location for a new fire hall would be where the old one is, with the dead center of town. We have many ways of egress out of the town.
Yeah,
We just have to change the way we do business at the elsewhere, that's all.
yeah, that was my thoughts too, is that there's lots of different ways around it. And I would also be hesitant to ever sell the place, because then once it's gone, the municipality doesn't have it, because we've experienced that where the township sold a whole bunch of stuff a few years ago and then you lose it. But I mean, it would be great to have a bucket of money fall from the sky and make a soft, lovely campus, but we'll see where we go. And yes, it'll be used for the future planning, so thank you.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion on the floor to receive the municipal master? Moved by Councillor Moore. Seconder. Councillor Hodge-Greaves, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very
If I
much.
may just, before we leave, Mayor, I just want to thank your staff, Seamus and Alan and Nolan for helping us with this. They've been very helpful. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Moving along with staff and committee reports, we'll start with R1. 2024 Asphodel-Norwood Fire and Rescue Personnel Update. Chief Payne, the floor is yours.
Oops, sorry. For you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. Just getting, this R1 is giving, council an update. What's going on in the fire department personnel wise. So, we've had, multiple resignations and, in the first of 2024 and 2023, some are due to poor non-attendance when they're mandated to do so. Medical reasons for resigning, personal reasons, and moving out of the district. So I'd like to acknowledge the people that have donated their volunteer firefighter service to the township in the last, with this round of resignations. Curtis Andrews gave 7 years. Mike Curry also gave 7 years. Michael Out, 3 years. John Spencer should be 7, that's a typo. Kirsten Hamilton, 3 years. Trevor Dupuis, 3 years. Carrie Armstrong, 9 years, and Todd Payne, 18 years. They're all very dedicated and capable firefighters, but life moves on. They had to make a decision to leave. So we had our recruitment in 2024. I was very happy with the results. We had 12 people apply for a small department. That's almost astounding. So the way we did it, we asked for the application to be received. We did that and we saved the 12 of them. We wanted 6 open positions, Station 1 and 1 Station 2, which is Westwood. The recruitment process was very good. We decided to take 7 in for the evaluation by the district chiefs. And we knocked it down to 7, and the 7 went to the EOTDA for their 3rd round. And we knocked it down to the 7. So the 7 that were taken are now becoming applicants in Asphodel-Norwood. And they are Connor Barr, Shane Cooligan, George Donaldson, Eric Gonzalez, Evan Smolcom, and Aaron Tom is Station 1. Station 2 is Megan Hawthorne. So we're looking forward. They'll start their training in 2025. So the financial implications, we have enough gear that we should be able to they gear up all these new people. There may be some outsized boots or mitts we may have to order for the bigger people, but this year's budget should be able to accommodate that and all. And 6 of the 7 have to be trained, and then we will address that in the 2025 budget. So ready to go and moving on. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Council, I'll state the recommendation that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information. Councilor Ward, Deputy Mayor Burt, any further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Moving along to R2. Seamus, Manager, Community Center and Parks and Facilities, Trent River Access Point Review.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So this report, as the mayor previously stated, is for the Trent River Access Point Review. To my understanding, this has never been done before. This was between some staff. A couple of staff thought it was different things, and then once we figured out what it was, so recommendation that the Council of Township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding the Trent River Access Point Review for information. And further, that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood proceeds with either option 1 or 2 as presented. So after looking into the Township Trent River Access Point, staff were pleasantly surprised with the number of Trent River Access Points available to residents. I didn't think there was gonna be this many. Luckily, we reached out to talk to the building department and realized that other township personnel, staff located 16. So every road we have technically has an access point. So again, thanks to the building department for assisting with that, because we previously, the first time, when staff went out and viewed it, we got to about 9, because that was just spots that we could clearly see. Here's Trent River, here's us. So below are the locations and the current conditions. So staff, thought of ways to potentially rank them. And staff came up with the following rating system on ranking them from a level 5 to level 0. So a level 5, that would be an access point that includes a wharf, a boat launch, and parking. Level 4, boat launch, parking. Level 3, boat launch, no parking. Level 2, just pedestrian access to the water. Level 1, no pedestrian access to water. And the level 0 would be no road or pedestrian access point. So we'll start off number 1. So in this table that's listed in the staff report, they're ranked from our level 5 all the way down to level 0. So township has 1. So of the 16, we have 1 that's a level 5, which is Birdsall, which has your wharf, your boat launch, and public access. The township does have 2 level 4s, so that's Asphodel Heights Park, and that's Asphodel 5th Line by McGuire Road. So those 2 again have boat launch, parking, but no wharf. The township has 1 level 3, so that's Old Orchard Road. So that's a boat launch with no parking. So right there, a quarter of all our boat launches, or a quarter of all our access points are considered boat launches. Moving down to Drysdale Road, that's a level 2. So it does have access. That's the one based off the picture that I think with a little bit of work could easily be turned into a boat launch. Again, no parking. It's a road that potentially you'd have to be backing in off Old Orchard or turning around at Trent Lane. And then we have 7 level 1s. So Asphodel Heights by Marine Drive, Humphrey Lines by Shady Point Lane, Asphodel 6th Line and River Road, Asphodel 7th Line by McCarthy Point Park, Asphodel 10th Line by Clark Lane, Asphodel Seymour Boundary, and Captain's Development at Trent Review Estates. So to touch on that one, talking again with the building department, they think potentially we might have access there, but it was never cleaned up when that subdivision went, because, most subdivision goes, we're supposed to, so that's something that one, if it was ever deemed that it actually is ours and we got that ownership, that easily would go up from a level 1, because people already have their own docks and that in there that live on Park Lane. Just it's a gate. So right now we deemed it a level 1 because the gate is closed. If that was ever, we had public access through there, that would easily could move up the list. And then there's 4 level zeros. So Asphodel 12th line, Asphodel 11th line, Center Line East, and the Asphodel 2nd line, and South Oak Lane. So after reviewing all of the access points, again, to touch on, we have 1 level 5, 2 level 4s, 1 level 3, 1 level 2, 7 level 1s, and 4 level zeros. So staff recommends that council consider the following 2 options to guide next step. So option 1, we maintain status quo, leave things as is, and monitor it. Potentially review this in next year. Option 2 would be staff researches pricing and the costs associated with upgrading the above noted access points. Coming back, another report would be providing back, and maybe not all 16 need upgraded, but maybe we deem 2 do, 1 do, 5 do, 15 do. So if option 1 is selected, staff would provide an update to council in 2025. If option 2 is selected, staff would recommend creating a 5-year Trent River access point similar to our 5-year parks plan or the roads plan, where we could spread the amount of work over multiple years, which would allow us to prioritize which access points need to be completed first, help spread the work over multiple years, and help staff budget for the scope of the work. So the financial implications, 2024 parks operational budget and parks capital did not include any funds for this in relation to the Trent River access point. So in conclusion, staff are seeking direction from council on what option they would like to proceed with for the Asphodel-Norwood Trent River access points.
Councilors, discussion? Deputy Mayor Burt.
Thank you, through you. Thank you very much. I found this very interesting. I would have never guessed there were that many access points in the township, and I thought I knew them all, and I didn't. So, no, I found that interesting. I have a question. There are some dry hydrants on some of these. Which one? The 6 line?
Yeah, the one by, the 6 by Dreamland has one, that's
Yeah.
off to the side.
Yeah.
So some do, some again, if option 2 was decided, it would be like using the 12th line and Center Line East, that has no access.
Mhm.
So some, if we were to investigate them, some will be, do you want to spend X amount of dollars to turn it into something? Or other ones would be, hey, the ones that maybe have access, like that one, that the hydrant, if it's off to the side, that you could just open it up, like some could be very easily upgraded.
Mhm.
Other ones that completely, at your level zeros, you're digging a road, cutting trees, cutting up marsh, building the road. And then some, would they be utilized? Maybe, maybe not. But there are some here, I think, if option 2 was decided, that they could easily be, maybe that's year 1, 2. And then some that are maybe further, maybe they're year 5, maybe they're, hey, you know what? We don't need 60.
Right.
Just following up on that, with the 6 line has a dry hydrant. I'm just wondering if the east end of the township should have one as well. So that was my thought.
There is one at Old
there-
Orchard.
There is one at Old
Yeah.
Orchard but nothing further.
Yeah.
So where's the one, is the one at Old Orchard where the boat launch is?
Yes.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
so that's right
Okay.
there, and
okay,
any further east, we don't have even access. So
okay,
that could
okay,
be something though, if you
Okay.
ever deem to, hey, the 12th line, we're gonna turn it into an access point, we're
yeah,
gonna put a dry hydrant with it.
okay,
But yeah,
that was
I
my-
think the reason they don't have it is you literally would be driving off-road.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, no, I was just wondering about the dry hydrant. So
And there
that's
is
good.
the one too to touch on, the Asphodel 2nd line. So in the picture, that's a cliff. So there is Holiday Vines and another resort. So technically our road allowance, we would have access to the water, but you're driving through 2 public properties. So that's why it was deemed lower. So unless you have permission from them, or you're digging out that cliff and making road access right to water, that's why that one was deemed so low.
That is very.
That's where
You
the
don't-
6 line.
That's the 2nd line, right by Holiday Pines.
Can I
Yes.
just a follow up? So I guess just looking at the list, and I just highlighted 2 things. So we know the Asphodel Heights Park, in the past, they've asked for a when they launched their boats. That hasn't come up in a long time, and I'm really surprised. It came up, I don't think it even came up in our first term of council, but it did come up before then, and nobody's come back. So that is one thought that, that has been on the burner before, and that may be something. And then the Old Orchard Road, I think it is used quite a lot. And that might be something to look at. When I look at everything else, when I look at the priorities the township has, right now, I am good with option one. Let's come back next year, and, you know, we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now. But I think this is a good document to have, so I'm just throwing that out there. I do like option one, but with the knowledge that perhaps that dock will come forward and looking at Old Orchard Road, looking at the busier sites, and then, you know, where do we go from here? So just my comment, and I'll let everyone else speak.
Councillor Ward?
Yeah, thank you through you, Mayor, and just to echo what Deputy Mayor Burt was saying, I too am leaning towards option one. It's manageable, it's prudent for future budget considerations. And I did ask you a couple questions earlier, and one was about the Asphodel Heights, you know, that conversation. And there hasn't been any conversation with staff that I know of in the last probably 6 years on that. But the one thing that I was wondering about on the fifth line at McGuire's, has there been any recent complaints about that area? Like, I think it's it's a well-designed area, I believe now, but.
So thank you through your mayor. Thank you for the question, Councilor Ward. So since we put the signs up, we get, as far as I know, staff haven't received a complaint that someone's been swimming for 31 minutes and they've only supposed to be swimming for 30. But I know last year, staff did have to go remove a sign that someone else had put up there that wasn't the sign we put up. As far as we know, summer's kind of just getting started, so maybe the complaints, if they're gonna come once people heavily use it. But as of right now, we haven't had anything since last year. I know that by doing this to touch on your other, having this document done now, maybe if public knew, hey, we have a quarter of ours already have boat launches. Our goal is eventually to maybe increase them or maybe get to 6, 8. But some of these, or maybe it is to, if when the time comes to do option two, you already know right away, those zeros, quite frankly, probably nothing's ever happening. Unless development took off or you had to do, but maybe if the goal is, hey, we have 7 level 1s. Maybe the goal is to get to 5, or maybe the goal is to have 3 level 5s or 2, so that we have multiple potential dock options instead of one. The Asphodel Seymour, we share that road with Seymour, similar to Birdsall, we share it with Autonomy. So maybe that's a 0, but maybe, or 1, but maybe that's for a conversation where we could have a Seymour to say, hey, you know what? It would put on the other end of town that, hey, do you guys have any appetite? Because on that one, if they did, we'd be sharing costs. If they say, hey, not a chance, then why would we turn something into nothing? But I think, again, whatever base stuff what council decides, but by having the document done, when the time comes, maybe it is 2025 going, hey, maybe it's when we do budget for 2025 going, hey, I know the plan's gonna be talked about next year, but maybe we budget and try to put the wharf in at Asphodel Heights. Or maybe it's to try to see if parking's even an option at Old Orchard. Because I know it is heavily used, and right now, if you only want to put it in off a dock, because you're worried about putting your boat in by yourself, you have one option. Right, instead of maybe not multiple options, you could say, hey, we live at the Heights, we can put it in right here, or hey, I'm gonna go to the Heights because Birdsall's too busy, because that one too, on a busy weekend, like, even though there's parking there, it's limited.
Councillor Ward?
If I may just have a follow-up,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I really appreciate you adding the pictures to the access points. It really does give a really good visual and the charting system. I think it's a really good starting document, and, you know, it will be one that you guys will be able to use at your one.
Thank you. And to touch on the deputy mayor.
Yeah.
When I went down Humphrey's Line, I've never been down past your place. I had no idea, and that's the thing where there's residents that, again, going back and still talking to the building department, I never knew every road had one. So to consider, which when you watch it on a map, it literally shows it's whited out because there's the road allowance that goes right to the water.
Sorry, I'm just reminded when you said about the at Trentview Estates, you know, down below. I'm really dating myself, but in 1982, 83, I worked for the township and I cut the grass down on that access point. It was, the park was sold, Seven Oaks Park, the access point, I believe, was kept. But that's just.
I cut too, yes.
Yeah.
Seamus, I really like your report. If we go through with one. My question could be to you, Alan, is this, if we go through with question one, there will be no money associated in 2025. I like option two for that thing, and I'm not saying $100,000, I'm not saying 50,000. But if you had $5,000 put in there, or something small like that, some of these access points that you're talking about, if the village public works is doing something on roads or something, they may be able to
Yeah.
do some of that work ahead of time, and I just thought if you could have something small, go ahead, Alan.
So just, just to build on that a little bit, what you could do is put a small amount in each budget year. If you happen to spend it and you see something, that's great. If not, then you put a motion to put it into a reserve and start to build a reserve that way. The other thing is there are grants that potentially could be sought to go
With this,
with this, but we'd have to have at least some funds that we could say we can contribute to that or
okay,
if it's 50%, whatever, we can match it. So even if you started having that available, then you're opening up your options down the road.
yes,
If you go with option, and they're both solid options and there are pluses and minuses on each. I think option two gives you a little bit more flexibility. But again, they're both solid options.
and just to further on to these, to Councillor War and Deputy Mayor Byrd. When I went through Asphodel Heights, trust me, the wharf down there was mentioned. And a lot of other things were mentioned too, like it's sort of a forgotten part of the township that maybe we should be budgeting some of this money towards that. Just a comment.
Just to follow up through your mayor, so on that, we do have a GL for Burzel Wharf. So we allocate money, so maybe in 2025, you look at increasing that or creating a Trent River access point. And two, if you elected to go with option two, that doesn't mean we have to start this tomorrow,
No,
right? It could be, hey.
that's
let's
why I'm
hold off
saying it's
when we
leaving
do
it
budget
open.
talks in the fall, we'll price it out. If a wharf's gonna be 20 grand, a wharf's gonna be 5 grand, maybe go, hey, you know what? Again, we'll get it done 2025, do the actual report, implement it, like 5-year parks plan, but knowing that again, some of these everyone's aware of, some could be done year one.
Yes,
Because they're either gonna be needed to be done or they're again ready, like Drysdale. It has literally the road finishes and then it's grass. So that could be, again, like to touch on that, if Public Works was ever doing something where they had extra gravel, just, hey,
Yeah.
we'll use it, put it there.
Through the deputy mayor mentioned earlier, I think the previous one, but the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
This could potentially be the same kind of thing. What's the low hanging ones where we get a good bang for the buck?
Deputy Mayor Byrd.
Thank you for the conversation. I came in adamant, number one, that's all we need. But thank you for the conversation. You may have changed my mind. Just saying, but I don't mind having that GL line, Trent River Access Points, 2025, having a, piece of a budget in there as you start your budgets, not too far away. So. See, I do listen.
Would you care to make the motion?
Sure.
Okay,
I'll make the motion, Council of Township of Asphodel-Norwood receives a report regarding for access point. And further that we proceed with option two as presented. Do we, just further to that, we don't need to have, like, say with a $5,000 budget allocation for 2025, that we don't have to do that here?
go ahead.
I wouldn't go that far
Okay,
at this.
okay.
Yeah. If it comes up, you can show us at the budget time.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor War, any further discussion? And it was great discussion, as you said. All in favor? That motion's carried. Thank you, Seamus. And Seamus Senior still in the seat. We'll move ahead with community garden update.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So this is a community garden update report. So recommendation, council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding the community garden update for information. And further, that the council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood supports implementing a community garden for the 2025 season, with planning to start in the fall of 2024. So on March 12th, 2024, staff released communication via social media channels and website explaining that the township was considering the addition of a community garden and was seeking public input. Community garden is a shared space where people can grow fruit, vegetables, and flowers either for themselves or for others in the community. The intent of the communication was to gauge interest and gather information. Residents were asked to comment on social media posts or contact the municipal office by phone or email if they were in support of a garden in the township, and let staff know if they would participate and where it would prefer to be located. 34 comments were received on Facebook, 8 emails were received by staff, and 1 comment posted on Instagram. So a few of the locations that staff received feedback. So Community Center Park, 4 people mentioned that. Vacant lot by Mill Street by the train bridge, 4. 1 by the Westwood Library, 1 by the vacant lot of Helen Street, 1 at the United Church, and 23 people expressed interest in participating. So on April 2nd of this year, staff met to discuss the feedback, possibility of a garden, and the potential locations. Staff visited the vacant lot of Mill Street as a potential location. Later at discussions, particularly with the building department, where it was found out to be an autonomy region conservation authority regulated area, rendering the location unsuitable. So when we physically saw that, staff went back that day, speaking with the building department, their worry was potentially about like pesticides, and it's a flood zone. So if we posted something saying this gardening is off limits for stuff, we're not monitoring, we can't control that. That also location that, could you do it, couldn't you do it, you'd have to build a parking lot, with the train bridge right being there, it's dangerous already. Meeting a vehicle the other way, potentially turning onto it, so we potentially, staff thought, hey, is there potentially another location? So staff also reviewed the Westwood Park as a possible location. This park could have the room, or does have the room for a potential of a garden. So as the time of composing this report, the optimal window for planting in most seasons has passed. In addition, the amount of time and work required to prepare the garden for the use, staff recommendations is to wait till 2025. So this would allow staff additional time to gather more information and properly plan for the possibility of a community garden within the township. So with more time, staff could research locations, whether it's doing one in Norwood, doing one in Westwood, maybe it's only doing 1 year one, maybe it's not doing any based off feedback. Staff also believes it is vital to have input from residents on the possible locations. So yes, we did put this out there, but 23 people replied, just saying, I'm interested. They're not physically showing up to a focus group saying, I'm really interested. Well, they could just be, oh yeah, I'm interested. Well,
Right.
where would they actually be? Maybe, maybe not. The location needs to be somewhat that's well received. So we don't want to put it in a location, say if we use Westwood Library, for example, and it's not used. So with more time, it would actually, maybe you present 3 locations in Asphodel, 3 in Westwood. Maybe one's a good one, maybe none of them are good ones. Maybe again, you start, hey, this one was deemed very good, let's start at year 1. It goes really well, maybe we add a second one. The other thing, budget, this would allow time to budget the costs, because when staff went to prep the site, we were aware of some of the costs associated, and one of the residents that saw us that they mentioned fence. Staff did not think you need a fence, but you need a fence because you can't have wildlife eating everyone's vegetables or fruit. So for budgeting, it would allow site prep, materials, topsoil, compost, manure, marking the plots, how users will water the garden, signage, and a fence around the perimeter. It would also deem the number of plots. So I'm in belief that we should be doing, if we do this, like a subdivision. You knowing, hey, that once we get 5 filled, we're doing 5. We knowing we could potentially, if we find a location that we know we can do up to 20, not doing 20. Waiting till, again, with more time, if this even goes, knowing that, hey, we have 10 people interested, we're gonna start with 10 plots. We don't wanna start with 20 plots and only have 5 used, and you're buying topsoil, compost, water that it's just turning into weeds. Also terms and conditions for use, so that would nearly need to be set up so that if someone is using a plot, you know, these are the rules, you're following them, you're not growing stuff you shouldn't be growing. you're not potentially doing stuff that you shouldn't be at the park. Also, the possibility of potential partnerships. So maybe it's the Horticultural Society, maybe it's a food bank. Maybe if you partnered with them, that they're benefiting, that they can supply their customers. Maybe they'd also look at helping for it. So the financial implications. This year's parks operation and capital budget does not include any funds. So in conclusion, we're recommending implementing a community garden for the 2025 season. With planting starting in the fall, providing that this is what residents are going to want and use. The last thing we want to do is potentially use a space that we potentially could use for something else, put the time and effort, build it, and no one comes and uses it, and then it's not being utilized, and then people are saying, oh, why did you build it here when we should have built it here?
Are you done?
Yep, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that report. Just a comment, I think you can do it on Mill Street. Are you talking doing plots on the ground? Are you talking raised beds?
So that's, again, based off this year, I think,
This year, I call it a write-off.
when we were asked to do this report, I think with the fact that there was no money budget, you probably would have had to do in the ground.
Right,
So you're saving the wood costs and everything else.
right.
That's again, with more timing, maybe you do going, hey, here's an option. You're not having any to stop leaking the little.
Couple of these groups could be raising funds for raised beds or whatever.
You could look at a high school building.
Could be building them, lots of benefits like that, especially how you mentioned a couple of the user groups that may benefit from it. I think that would be a great idea. With Mill Street on the Conservation Authority, they already had gardens down there before, so I'm pretty sure if you were to contact the Conservation Authority, they're not gonna balk on it for a second time when it was successful before, but wore out as the years went on. People just didn't use it. Councillor Hotchkiss?
Through you, Mayor, did you reach out to Incredible Trent Hills and the Campbellford Community Gardens? They have a project that's been up and running for a few years. Sadly, this year has not gone well. Their Facebook posts there's been vandalism in the gardens and they don't have volunteers. So I just think perhaps, but they would have all the things we need to know, like the terms of reference and that sort of thing. So I didn't know if you were aware of that.
Good, thank you through, Mayor. No, we had it, and that's why by pushing it off, the last thing we want to do is rush this.
Yeah.
Right? You rush it, you put it in the garden, someone can grow one pea because that's all you can grow.
Yeah.
Right? So by having the actual time to do it, you can properly plan. You could reach out to
Yeah.
that group. You could reach out to other groups that have these. Hey, what's went well, maybe. No, don't do it because
Yeah.
everyone's going to vandalize it or something, or how, if you're gonna do it, what can we do to stop those people from doing?
Right. Deputy Mayor Burt?
Thank you through you. Thank you for the report, Seamus. Yeah, I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel. There's lots of these around and I think you can take pieces that will work for Asphodel-Norwood. I do think you need to have 2 or 3 locations. I'm not sure that Westwood would work simply because Westwood residents have a lot of land. They have a lot of property. They probably already have their own gardens. I'm not, I would think that perhaps, the need is greatest in Norwood, but I don't know for sure. But I think starting the process, where would you like to see these? Getting a group together, that are really serious, like you say, you don't wanna build 10 of them and only one show up, but, yeah, that's just my comment. I think it has to go where it's needed most, wherever that may be.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yes, thank you for the report. I'm really happy to see it on the agenda because I know with the previous CAO, there had been a group that went and met the CAO in 2023, right after our elections, but nothing came of it. And so I'm really happy to see some staff input, and I believe there was some consultation with other groups that staff has in their hands, some documents about other references, I believe, from Havelock. So I think there are some resources that are probably already at the office.
Okay.
I'm along the lines of Deputy Mayor Burt. I don't know if Westwood is a key location, one, because of lot sizes that people have for property. The second is we already, I don't know about the the water situation at that location as well. And so I think that, I think for people that are volunteering, the most volunteers would probably be in Norwood, so a suitable location here would be probably best. Just a comment. But thank you for bringing the report forward.
I think it's just, and that's why, again, if we reach out to these residents, we know, hey, maybe only one.
Yeah.
Maybe the demand's not there. Maybe it'd be great if the demand was there that you could do both, but, and that was our concern too, is Westwood's the water. So if you're putting a water tank there, well, how often is it being filled? Are people using it to fill their own? Because they're on wells, next thing you know, we're filling it on a Sunday. What happens if the staff can't get there on a Sunday? Now people are complaining, because, so it's, again, all the things behind the scenes to make sure that we've crossed all our Ts, dotted our Is, we're not doing something, and like, if that resident didn't say it's something, I overlooked the fence,
Right.
right? Versus being like, oh, you need a fence, oh, you need access to water, you need access to people park, and that's the other thing, finding a location that you can't just put it in a random field that people are parking on the side of the road.
And Asphodel Heights could be another
Yep.
spot that could be very well, because you have the water right there with the
Mhm.
Trent. And there's a big buildup of houses, and they're not all big lots.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Seamus, for that report. Can I have somebody make a motion? The council of the Asphodel Township accepts this report for information, and further that the council supports implementing a community garden for the 2025 season with planning to start in the fall of 2020. Deputy Mayor Burt, Councillor Hodge agrees. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Seamus.
Thank you.
CAO Alan Hewlett, 7th line reconstruction tenders.
You, Mary, you'll be stuck with me for the next few ones, actually, so we'll start off with what I would consider probably one of the more easier, straightforward ones. So in March of 2024, Peterborough County put out a request for tenders for surface treatment for themselves and for several of the lower tier municipalities. Submission deadline was April 18, 2024, so this is something that they do pretty much on a yearly basis. These kind of tenders go out. 3 bids were received in this particular case with the county, and after reviewing the submissions, the county has awarded the contract to Dufferin Construction Company. Contained in this tender was reconstruction of work for Asphodel 7th line from intersection of Center Line northerly approximately 1 kilometer. The cost of this work is $159,905. So from the financial implication side, in the 2024 capital construction budget, $85,000 was budgeted for surface treatment, but there was always an expectation that some gas tax funding would be used. So in this particular case, we'd be looking at taking $74,905 for gas tax. We currently have just over $130,000 in there. That would leave us with about $55,000, but that will also get topped up when we find out what we're getting this year. So I hate the term rubber stamp, but to a certain extent, this one is about as rubber stamp as we're going to get. But I do need council to actually approve it.
Just a comment. 7th line, that's Golf Course Road, correct? You've got trees down there that have to be removed. Are we going ahead with the removal of trees? Has there been any discussions with the residents down there, or are we just gonna put the money in on this road and in short period of time, it'll deteriorate again because the sun is not getting out?
There's still work that is being done on there. We did have the presentation earlier this year from the residents down there. So before we would start anything, we would revisit that and make sure that if we're going to spend money on it, that we're getting good value for that money.
Right. Councillor Ward?
Thank you for you. Just that this tender is from Center Line North,
Yes.
right? So Center Line north of. So does that take you to, like, how far does that take us? Does that take us
It's
to?
about 1 kilometer, so I'm not.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
just
I
gonna-
think it- Okay.
Goes to the golf course driveway almost, right?
I would think so,
Close.
coming
That's what I was
that way.
trying to envision. Where does that end? So that doesn't even take us to the bridge where they have the issues with the.
I don't believe so. I'll be I'm still working on figuring out where we think it's in the municipality as well, so I'll be the first one to put that out there.
Yeah.
I think a little
All
short
right.
of what you're referring to, but I still think it's part of the conversation.
Yeah,
That other
gotta
one
be.
still needs to take place.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion in front of us. The council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information. And further, the council selects Duffer and Construction Company to complete the reconstruction work. Asphodel 7th line for the cooperative Peterborough County resurface treatment tender. Can I have a mover? Councillor Ward, seconder. Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? Motion's carried. Alan, you can carry on with COVID policy review.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So I think we'll all recall that during 2020 and 2021, just about every municipality in Ontario put some kind of COVID policy in place. We were one of the ones that it was at the time a very smart thing to do, so it's a good thing that we did that. We're now approximately halfway through 2024, and the landscape that we have now, the question became, is it current? Is there value? I mean, technically, if I'm following the policy letter right now, when we hire new staff, I should be asking them for their COVID policy. In 2024, is that particularly relevant? I would put out that it's probably not the best use of our time and probably a little invasive in asking for things like that. So really what we're doing is looking to rescind this policy, return to what we were doing previously, 2020 previous, and just go forward from that way. If we have an outbreak down the road, there would be nothing that would stop us from bringing it back and asking to reinstall them.
Sounds very good, Alan. Any questions about? Deputy Mayor Burke?
Just a comment, when I saw this come up, I honestly thought this
We
was
had done
already
it.
done. But looking back, it was at the county, and at the county, it was done in February of 2023, I believe, and I honestly thought we had followed that up, and obviously we didn't, so, thanks for bringing this forward, and, I can make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Burke, seconder, Councillor Ward, that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts, acknowledge, approves this report, and further that the council revokes the COVID-19 prevention and mandatory vaccination policy adopted on September 21st, 2020. All in favor? Motion's carried. Continue on now.
Moving right along, sir.
Community business recognition awards update.
So one of the things when I started back in February, a couple of members of council mentioned to me about we needed to bring some resolution to the 2023 Business Community Award. So I took a little bit of time just to make sure I had a good understanding. And now we're bringing some recommendations that I hope will help us with that. So for the past few years, the township has organized an annual Business and Community Recognition Award ceremony. The nominations were received in 2023, for a number of different reasons that didn't actually take place. So the recommendation that we're putting forward is that we review the awards, the nominees in closed session after this meeting, and that we, in September, we invite the winners of those awards to a council meeting, and there are a couple different, we could do it as a special council meeting, we could do it as part of a regular council meeting. We could have a bit of a reception before the meeting, just to give everybody an opportunity to talk to each other that way. So there's a number of different pieces that we could do that I think could make for a very nice event. With that will give us closure to our 2023 awards, and then going forward, I think you need to give some consideration to, are we a better fit to maybe focus on the county awards? Do we want to maybe give consideration to once a term of council? I don't know that doing these every year is necessarily sustainable or the best use of staff time. I think it's important to make sure that stuff like this is recognized. But I just think right now what we have is probably a little bit more than we necessarily needed.
All right, any questions now? Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I quite like the idea, perhaps, I was thinking about it, the awards as well as the volunteer, the boards, sort of wrapping that all up into a per term thing. So that it's every 4 years, maybe, then you can justify a bit more of a, like a gala event or that type of thing, or something would perhaps. But yeah, with the county recognition awards going on, we are a small community, it's nice to recognize people, but you can start to run out of people too. But yeah, I quite like the idea of township awards done in a term of council, as well as recognizing the volunteers and stuff. I know that's not been suggested, but that's just an idea.
Any other, Deputy Mayor Burt?
Thank you, just following up with Councillor Hodge-Greaves. Yeah, I think we run out of winners. We absolutely would. We're not a big business community, just looking at the business. Once a term will be fine, but I think we really have to look at the categories too, and perhaps it's a mayor's award. And then all of the other awards are through the county, because we have the business, we have the ag, we have the volunteer. And maybe at the end of the term,
Just have
it's a mayor's award, whatever we have to have. And I don't know, just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it is with our volunteer base, and that's done at the same time. I think there's a lot of options. I guess you kind of want to know what to do here. As far as I think we do need to wrap up 2023.
Well-
That's what, I think that's the first thing
Yes.
we need to
So,
do.
I think, yeah, there are two pieces here. I think
Yeah.
wrapping up 2023 is an important piece and that needs to happen. I don't necessarily know that you need to decide on the
No.
other part
No.
today. You know, a couple of interesting points have been raised here. We can go back and maybe take a look and see what some of the other municipalities are doing, bring a little bit more back before you make that final decision. But again, there are two pieces. There's what's the immediate for the 2023 and then what do we want to do moving forward.
Right.
Yeah, so,
Follow up.
yeah, if I can just follow up. So yeah, so the piece for 2023, yes, those nominations were brought in. We need to deal with that. I had thought, and I said this to Alan, perhaps it's just a special, 6 to 7 PM meeting, and maybe it could be at the Westwood Library for a change. Just to have a council meeting there, and I'm just afraid that some of these people cannot make a 1 or noon to 1 or 1 to 2 meeting. And that way they may have, other family be able to come out. So that was my suggestion for 2023, is to deal with that, at a special meeting, and maybe it's before September. I don't know how quickly you can get it together, but anyway, just throwing that suggestion out there. And yes, I agree. Looking forward, there's a few options that can be looked at, and we don't need to decide that today.
Councillor Wolf?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. Just to tag on to what the other councillor and deputy mayor have said. Thank you for bringing this forward. I think we were trying to do too much. We were overlapping with so many other awards that were given by the county. Seniors Award that's given at the Norwood Fair by the Stewart family. There's a lot of things that we already do. I do think, I think I sent this out, that I thought there should be some kind of mixer before or after a council meeting, because during a council meeting, we don't have time to go and congratulate people. And so what Deputy Mayor Burt suggested, the library in Westwood, great location. Be cool in September, wouldn't be too bad in there. And that would be a nice wrap up. Yeah, we're here now, right? Nice wrap up. But anyways, I'm glad that this was brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. I'll state the recommended motion that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts, acknowledges, and approves this report. Councillor Hodge-Greaves. Councillor Ward, all in favor? Motion's carried. Alan, Peterborough County OPP Detachment Board.
All right, getting toward the end, Mayor, but yes, stuck with me for a little while on. So I believe you're all aware, there were a number of different changes that the province put forward around how the police services board across the province would be managed. Those changes came into being as of April 1st of this year. So on April 1st, 2024, the Ontario government's Comprehensive Ontario Police Service Act 2019, cops came into focus. And also the enactment of the Community Safety Plan Act of 2019 is in place as well. On April 1st, again, of 2024, the Strengthening Safety and Modernization Justice Act 2023 came into force. So what does this all mean? The police services board that we previously had, which the mayor was the rep on, they no longer exist now. What we have now is each OPP detachment has its own board. So for this area, the staff of the municipalities are included in the Peterborough Attachment Board, have been doing working on terms of reference, working on some other pieces to try and get the board up and running. Basically, the people who had sat on the previous police services board are moving over to this board. So in this case, that would be the mayor. So we've had a couple of little challenges. One of the ones we didn't expect was getting insurance for the board. We thought that would be a little bit more straightforward than it's turned out to be, but that is one that we're working on.
What kind of insurance? I didn't understand that.
So that is basically any board needs liability insurance. So that if they came out and there was an issue with something, somebody disagreed or wanted to take them to court or whatever, they'd have insurance that would cover them off or something like that. I would hope it would never happen. Unfortunately, we have to prepare in case it does happen. So, and one of the requirements under the legislation is that they have to have insurance. So there are, again, terms of reference are being worked on. We're looking at a couple of different ways and how the board is going to be supported. So there are ongoing meetings that are taking place on that. We're hoping to try and get some resolution in the next month or so on that, and then see the board start to meet after that, because the board has not actually met yet, because these other pieces are not in place. So this one was more just to let everybody know there's work out there that's being done. We're moving in the right direction. We're just not quite there yet.
Question, who's moving, Alan? Who's doing it?
Most of it's the CEOs from the townships and also the First Nation.
Okay, so this is actually costing more than what the board before used to cost. Which was a volunteer service. Like the province had nothing set up ahead of time, just bang, we're gonna do this as of April 1st. We haven't had a meeting. I laugh here with engagements. The only engagement I had with the gentleman from Selwyn was an email saying, thanks for doing the pre-testing and blah, blah, blah for all this and passing it. That was it. I haven't had one discussion on how this committee is going.
Not to kick my friends in the province, because I wouldn't want to do that. However, it's probably not the best planned out implementation from something from the province that I have ever seen.
Not at all.
So I get that the intent is greater accountability, and I support that. But I wouldn't say any of your comments are wrong at this point in time, that, yeah, the rollout was not necessarily what it could have been.
No.
Staff are working as hard as they can to try and mitigate and manage that. And like I say, I do believe we're moving in the right direction, but no, the rollout was nothing to be particularly proud of.
Oh, thank you. Deputy Mayor Burt.
Thank you, through you. Just as you mentioned that, obviously, this isn't the only board, it's province-wide. How, where have others received insurance, or is everybody in that same position right now?
From what I can gather, pretty much everybody is in, if not the same, a very similar
Okay.
position. So we've got the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards who are investigating and taking the lead on the insurance, and then they're gonna roll it out to all of us. I can say that there's conversation going up, for instance, we were able to get the terms of reference from one of the other ones, which is probably gonna end up looking very similar to the one we end up with. So nobody needs to reinvent the wheel on all of these. Like I said, I do think the intent is good, but yes, the rollout probably could have been a little smoother.
Any other questions, Council? Motion that the Council Township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report for information. Deputy Mayor Burt, Councillor Ward, all in favor? Motion's carried. Carry on, Alan, R8, management action list.
I gotta remember to bring a glass of water with me for next time. Okay, yes, sir, through you, man. So this is just as we do every month, the action list. I think if you take a look at it, you can see that, we include the previous meeting. We got quite a bit done at the March 28th meeting. We got quite a bit done at this meeting. The June 25th meeting isn't quite as busy as of right now, but I do have the feeling it made it a little bit busier than what we have right now. A couple of things I want to highlight coming up with the June 25th meeting is we do have the paramedics service coming, and they are going to be giving us an overview of what they've been up to. We do have a report coming on the transfer station that, from E.M. Willis. I have been working on them with that, and there are some pieces that you need to know about that, but that will be for the 25th. And the community safety well-being plan, I expect to have an update on that one from, Sharon at the county on that. We're meeting later this week to get that. We do have a couple other things that are coming up as well. Some of the ones for later on, the youth advisory group is continuing to meet. They've got one of their first events coming up. I know that was one that the council was very interested in what was going on with them, so that is coming up. One of the other ones for the council priorities at the Teeny Tiny Summit, Councilor Ward attended last week. I was asked to reach out to them to see for 2025 if there was any way we could be included. I put that out there. They were quite pleased when they heard from us. I don't think it guarantees us anything yet, but we're definitely on their radar for, as a hosting community for next year, which I felt that was a positive as well. So just to highlight that one.
Right.
If there's any specific questions on the management list, I'm happy to try and address those.
Councillor Hodgkins.
Through you, Mayor, I was going to ask Seamus, but it didn't quite come up, and I did speak to Seamus outside of a meeting around in the boardroom. Here, this boardroom, in the thing, there are tree donation plaques that are just sitting on the floor and they need to be put up somewhere. And Seamus is aware of it, but he said, we'll mention it in the meeting so that it can get put on the action list, because it's part of a bigger project, he said, to hang the things on the wall in the new foyer. So he is aware of it, but, yeah.
So through you, Mary, yeah, the recreation manager, have had some conversations about that. I believe he has got some work going on, but we could add that to the management list. That'll put it right up there. We'll make sure it gets looked after.
And any other plaques that are supposed to be up. I don't know if there's more lying around or not, but that one, yeah. So that was my
Any
thing.
further questions of Alan? Okay, so the motion is that council accepts this report with the revisions suggested by staff and members of council. Deputy Mayor Burt, Councillor Hodge-Greaves, all in favor? Motion carried. Under correspondence for action. C8, what's council's wishes with respect to C8? Deputy Mayor Burt.
Yeah, just a comment. I certainly think when we see this letter, we can certainly help promote and you know, get it out through social media and channels for, you know, if people are able to go and volunteer. We don't have a budget line for sponsorships. We can't do that. But I'm hoping that, you know, through our clerks department, social media channels, it's something that could be promoted, and if volunteers would like to take part. So I don't know if that can be received with a comment. I'll make that motion, receive with a comment.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just to tag on what Deputy Mayor Burt was saying. I was wondering if we could send a letter back saying, you know, we'd welcome helping them with, you know, the
Website.
social media and promotion that, but at this time there can't be a financial or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But to acknowledge that we, you know, we think it's an important event at Kirk Lake.
Very good. You second that motion?
Yeah, I second that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Township of Georgian Bay. Sustainable infrastructure funding in small rural municipalities. Council, what's your wishes? Councillor Ward?
Sorry, to support this, I think we're all
Motion to
struggling.
support, yes.
I would second that.
Second by Councillor Hodge-Greaves. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried for support. County of Renfrew. Rural and small urban municipalities, affordability of water and wastewater. Deputy Mayor Burt.
Same thing, I have to support that one.
Support that one in a big way. Councillor Ward, any further discussion? All in favor? That motion's carried. Support. Council liaison reports. Does anybody have anything else they would like to bring forward that was not in our agenda package? Deputy Mayor Burt.
Yeah, we just had a library meeting last night, so hence I don't have anything in writing. So just to update a few things, our strategic planning session, we had the review and the summary, and that's going well. There'll be a library questionnaire for the public that will be out probably by the end of the week, and it will be ready for showcase as well. So please look for that, and I encourage council members and the public to fill that out. We have just done, I was gonna say a logo redesign, but a logo design, the library never had one. So that was approved, last night, and the tagline is, your library, infinite opportunities. So that's been done. The new roof project went very well, no disruption to services. A summer student has been hired, and an announcement will be made, in the coming days. The youth advisory group, there's 10 involved, and there was a funding request that the library submitted to the Norwood Legion for their consideration, and it was this youth advisory group that wanted to get some outdoor equipment like pickleball, rackets and balls and lawn games and other outdoor sports equipment, because they want to get youth more involved in outdoor activities, and you'll be able to borrow those items to take out, and the Legion donated $500 to that. So there's one thing, first thing that the youth advisory group has done, so that's fantastic. So I just wanted to touch you base with that, and thanking the Legion. And September 27th, there's going to be a honky tonk fundraiser for the library. So get your dancing boots on. It will be at the town hall, $10 advance tickets. There will be line dancing, teaching you how to line dance, and Rhonda is going to volunteer her time for the evening to do that. The Lions will be running the bar, and we'll be having some sort of food, so just mark that down. And September 27th. And I believe maybe 7 to 11 or something
Right.
like that. So yeah, watch for that. And that's everything.
Councillor Ward.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. Just a couple updates. I will get a more detailed report for the next council meeting. With the BAC, we had our last meeting. It was very successful. Lots of great conversation. We have moved our September meeting will be on September, it will be a Thursday, September 5th instead of a Tuesday. That's our next meeting. And we also nailed down a date for the next business breakfast. That's going to be November 19th, also at the town hall. So those are 2 upcoming dates if you want to pencil them into the calendar.
You say those dates again, please.
Sorry, September 5th is the next BAC meeting. That's at the Norwood Hall. That's our regular meeting. And then the breakfast BAC will be on November 19th. And I'll bring that forward. I'll put the dates in my council liaison report for the next one. But I just wanted to, summertime's coming and people
Yes.
are making plans. So I just wanted to make sure you guys put those in your calendar. The other thing for the cultural heritage, we have been working with the clerk's department, and gosh, they've done a great job. They did some great posters for us, some informational things will all be at showcase. So the BAC and cultural heritage both have a table for showcase, and we will both we'll have draws at both tables. I think one for the BAC, we're gonna have a little bit of information about people's what people want to see in a community market. So I hope that people take time, fill out the ballot, and that will be there. And we also have, back to the CHC, we have the tickets for the cemetery walk, which please put on your calendar. That is September 21st. And we will do a stones and stories of the Norwood Asphodel Cemetery. And we are still looking for volunteers. We need a couple of people to do some talks at the stones. So if you know of anybody that would be interested in helping us for a couple hours, we would greatly appreciate that help. But we do have the tickets. They're limited. They're free. But if you want them, please contact us and we'll put your name on the list.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Councillor Hodge.
On Tuesday, next Tuesday, June 18th, there's a fundraiser for the food bank. As many are aware, the food bank has doubled its registered families in the last 4 years, I believe. And they are, very much in need of money, and the fundraiser is a ukulele sing-along. It's at the United Church, but the funds are donated towards the food bank, and it's 6:30 to 8:30 in the evening, so. That's all.
All right, the only thing that I have to add on, like, county council minutes, everything, you can read them all on here. You don't read the Fairhaven ones too often, though, I bet, because there's a lot of information on them. You're gonna say, what is that? Just that Alan and I have been doing the municipality route, and we do have, Trent Hills tomorrow morning.
Thursday morning, sir.
It's Thursday?
I just checked.
Okay, my list says tomorrow.
When I get back to the town hall, I will double check, but I have it down for Thursday.
13th.
Yeah.
What's today? 10th, 11th. Okay, sorry, my wrong. I'm bad.
Well, guess what? You get to do tomorrow.
No, I'm busy. I already committed. But thank you very much. Yes, I can do tomorrow. As showcase, Asphodel-Norwood is on the 15th, which is this Saturday. Starting time, I think it's 10:30, Alan?
10.
10 till 1:30. Is that right? 2. I keep cutting it off. Yeah, I like a quick meeting, quick. Moving along here, CAO clerk treasurer's list.
Through your mayor, just to follow up on Council Ward's comment, the clerk's department always does a great job.
Yeah. Nothing else? No, all right, general business, does anybody have anything they would like to discuss? Deputy Mayor Burke.
I could have added this to the liaison report because it is my committee, but it's not a township committee, so I thought I'd add it to general business. I got this email yesterday from the Source Water Protection Committee, and there is a drinking water testing and treatment meeting online, just a Teams meeting for an hour. And it's basically about private water sources. So if anybody needs help, looking at their own well, that sort of thing, I will send this. I just got it this morning, Melanie, so I'll send this out and you can put that over social media channels. People just have to register for it, but it's just best practices for non-municipal source protection. So I think because there's a lot of people who have their own wells, it might be helpful for somebody who's watching their lunch hour. So I will pass that along to you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wood?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Something that maybe the two of you, sitting at the upper, level might be able to help with or give more information on. I saw a post from Peterborough County, and they're asking residents and property owners to make sure that their 911 addresses are correct. I saw it because they're migrating to the new system. Do you have any update? But I saw that and I thought that might be something good to push out to our residents to make sure that the 911 addresses are correct. It was from Peterborough County.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, that new system is coming forward and it's easy to do. I did it. It's simple. You just follow the links, find your property, and if it's there, well, mine was there, so it was easy to do. I don't know if you can't find your property, it might be different, but
Right.
yeah, it was very easy to do. Yeah, good point to get that out to
Right.
residents. Good idea.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we're now going to move into a closed session to review an application for municipal scholarship program, 2, the nomination for 2023 Business and Community Recognition Awards, and 3, a human resources matter in accordance with section 239-2B of the Municipal Act, and the time is 2:58. Can I get a motion? Councillor Ward? Deputy Member, all in favor? Motion's carried. We're now back in open session and the time is 3:39. May I get a motion to direct staff to follow the direction given and closed? Councillor Hodge-Greaves, seconder, Councillor Ward, all in favor? Motion's carried. We have no notice of motions today. So we'll move into the bylaws and I'll start to read these for us.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. That the bylaw to adopt the estimates of the sums required during the year 2024 for municipal purposes and to establish rates of taxation to be levied during the year 2024 and to provide for penalty and interest be read a first, second, and third time in number 2024-32.
Moved by Councillor Ward, second by Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? Motion's carried.
And the bylaw?
Yes.
That the bylaw confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held this date, June 11, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time in number 2024-33.
Mover, Councillor Hodge Greaves, second by Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? Motion's carried. Council, you see the future meetings scheduled before you. And now concedes our business of the day. Can I get a motion of adjournment, please? Deputy Mayor Burt. Councillor Ward, all in favor? Motion's carried.